So, I was wondering if I could get the aux in this.
Welcome to Pass the Aux. I'm your host, Gavin the Chef Cook. With me today is...
Joseph, the lawn mower.
What is happening, man? What is happening?
Man, it's just a lot of busy stuff here at the station, man, and just busy stuff in school in general. November, just a busy month, but, I'm happy to be here with you, Mr. Gavin.
I'm happy to have you here. You know, it melts my heart that you say that. So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I ask it every time. What have you been listening to, over the past week?
Well, obviously the new WZIS-FM Gun that's came out, really, really good. And it was so funny because Black Star was, a feature on that album and stuff.
Yeah.
And I love Mos Def. And, I hadn't listened to Black Star in a minute.
Yeah.
And, just listening to his, feature on JID's track, Stars, and it kind of made me think of it. So I went back and so I've been listening to a lot of Mos Def, Black Star, and then now, WZIS-FM Gun and some more Griselda artists.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I'm glad. I love rediscovering, music that I listened to like early high school, late middle school, Joe.
That's a lot of fun. It's going back and just finding stuff and you're like, man, I haven't listened to this in forever. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of similar to what kind of inspired today's episode. Is a lot of stuff that we're gonna be talking about today is stuff that I, listened to a lot as a kid, and so re-listening to it lately has been going through a time machine,
Facts.
But it's funny you mentioned Jid because I am re-listened to the Forever Story again. Mm-hmm. Now that the album's completely finished and put together. He finally got 2007 cleared. I've been re-listening to that. It feels so much it was a great album before, but it feels better now. That outro needed to be there. It's perfect. I also listened to WZIS-FM Gun's album. Listened to a little bit of Division's new album.
Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad. Okay.
Division's Division. They have their hits and misses.
Fair.
They're very much so the Drake of the R&B industry. They give me Drake energy, so it only makes sense that they're signed to OVO.
Gotcha.
But today we're going to be discussing. We're going to talk about the Migos in honor of Takeoff passing away. We're just going to talk about Migos. Talk about favorite songs, favorite projects. Talk about the impact that they've left on trap music or just the rap game in general. Because I know, well, for the most part, I know everyone's listened to the Migos before. Everyone has had their songs in their playlist. And I know you, being a fellow hip-hop head as I am, I figured you'd be down to do this. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
Here we are now. It's a sad thing that's going on right now. My condolences go out to Takeoff. Or Takeoff's family, Quavo, Offset, and all that. Someone's gone too soon. It's never fun.
Yeah, RIP for sure, man. Too many rappers is, coming to an end too early.
Yeah, and it's, it's always something small that gets blown out of proportion. That's the worst.
Of course.
But,
man.
Breaks my heart.
True.
But, so when did you first hear Migos? What got you into them, or what was the first song you heard by them, if you can remember?
I believe it was 7th grade, where me and my friend Ethan were, just chilling, just kind of exchanging phones, just listening to, tracks while we were doing some busy work in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, this is terrible. Just to my whole playlist. It was terrible. Because I didn't really discover my music identity yet.
Yeah.
And so, him saying that kind of led me down this kind of rabbit hole through SoundCloud and Spotify at the time. And to the point where, come, freshman year, I've discovered MF Doom. I've discovered all these other underground, Black Star, all these other underground or kind of gritty, lyrical type people.
Yeah. And
then this rap group called Migos just pops on the scene, and I didn't, I was kind of, stereotypical all rap should be lyrical, type dude.
Yeah.
But something about Migos was just different, and it might have been just my love for Atlanta rap and just the dirty South rap game or something, but it was just something that was different. And so obviously Bad and Bougie was one of the first tracks that I really got me really hype about the Migos and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then Fight Night and like some of their older stuff. It was I believe it was like something handsome, like young,
Handsome and Wealthy.
Handsome and Wealthy.
Yes.
Handsome and Wealthy was one of my favorite tracks out early. So those were really when I started discovering. And one more thing, there was I was friends with a lot of like high school rappers and stuff.
Yeah.
And there was this one cat in my band class. He was named Young Bubba. Shout out Young Bubba, man.
That's amazing. I love that name.
And
Sorry.
he was the biggest Migos fan in the world, and all of his music were just basically just kind of like Migos covers. And he can spit a little bit. I ain't even gonna flex, but like, man, it just had such an impression. That just kind of shows how much of an impression like the Migos had on like my class and just high school in general at that time. He just took over. It's amazing.
That's great. That's actually really funny. I love that. So the first time I got a lot of, when I was, we're talking about the same thing. When I was in middle school, going into high school, like I hadn't found my music identity yet. And I love my lyrical stuff. Like I grew up off of Ludacris, and he was like the perfect combination of lyrical and goofy. And so I got a lot of like the newer music from my older cousin because he was like the closest thing I had to a brother. And the first Migos song I ever heard was called where it was Cook It Up. And I just remember being like, man, what is this? I was like, why is it like this? And so everyone had like a live mixtapes or a Dat Piff or Spinrilla phase in their life. And so I get on Spinrilla and I'm like, who are Migos? Like, who are these dudes? Look them up, and I skipped a couple of the their first tapes and whatnot. And so I listened to YRN, the first one, for the very first time. And I remember I heard Versace, Hannah Montana, F12, Baker's Man, Finesser, FEMA, like all these songs. I'm just like, man, this is wild. Yeah. I'm just like, amazing. Wow. And I was like, these dudes are just insane. Like,
yeah, Versace, that took over. I believe that was one
and
of
then
their
the Drake
first
remix came out.
Drake, thank you. Yep.
And that's still like one of my favorite things that they've ever done is the remix to that. And don't even get me started about when they put out RNT, which was Timeline. But
man, oh man,
that whole little tape, like there wasn't even anything crazy about that one. But like you get halfway through it and you hit Came to Party, Bachelor, Nah For Real, Northside, Wishy Washy. That's all I gotta say. That Wishy Washy. And and for the most part, like everyone around me started listening to Migos. Like it really blew up in like my area. Like it's really funny that you're talking about like how it wasn't until like high school that everyone really was super into Migos, because like it was like 8th grade going into high school for me. And so like we were like what, a year or two ahead of what your high school it sounds like. Yeah. And it's so funny though because we were literally just on like the other sides of indie from each other.
Facts.
And so I don't know, like, and so like I remember when No Label 2 came out my freshman year, I was like, what is this? Because it was like a new version of Migos, like they had like bangers before, but that's when we got into like Fight Night, Handsome and Wealthy, Freak No More, Built Like Me, Payola, New Atlanta. And so like I was like, man, these dudes are crazy. And like I got super into them out of nowhere too. And to this day, like they have such a lasting impact on like specifically the trap subgenre of rap, because you were talking about how you said you love your Atlanta rap. And that's because like we had Future and stuff, and like we had other trap artists, like we had our Gucci Mane, we had all this, but like Gucci Mane being from Atlanta was nothing new to us, but he didn't really have like this specific like different sound to him, like
I would agree because
like
that.
Gucci Mane was very Atlanta, but like he wasn't doing anything like wild that was out of the box per se. And so like Gucci Mane like laid down some foundation, and Migos was like, how do we change this? Like and they're like, what if we're a trio but like we technically all rap at the same time? And they're like, huh, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Who does that?
That's the funny thing. That's why I love Atlanta, because like something that always sets anything like apart from me is like how unique it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because, somebody, wise man once told me, nobody can be you but you. So always do you, always be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And don't, fall in line with, whatever you think is popular. Always do what you want to do. And like in this case, make the music that you want to create. And with any deep, down south, especially Atlanta artists and stuff, coming even from the Dungeon family, they always kind of redefine what popular hip hop can be.
Mm-hmm.
When you go all the way back to Outkast, and then you go to Future, and then Migos, who I would argue is, probably the second most, if not, honestly, might be even the first most impressionable, like, that influenced the game as much as, Outkast and stuff like that when it comes to the general, like, sound of trap music.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's so interesting to me, like, how they came up. And again, bringing it back to Takeoff and stuff, really it was him who brought this whole thing together,
Yeah, he, I used to always say that they all had their own like places in this whole thing that they have, and it's because they were different from most duos or trios. Like Outkast had their thing, but they never really like layered as much as the Migos does in like their music. And Takeoff specifically was the layers. Like Quavo is the like mood man. He sets vibes in songs.
For sure.
He is the definition of stunting. Like Quavo doesn't really come out with like just straight up crazy lyrics or flows or anything like that, but he vibes, like he can float.
Yeah.
And then you have Offset, who literally can flow while also riding this wave that Quavo starts when he sets the vibe of the song. But then Takeoff, he literally can spit, vibe, and flow all at the same time. Like he's a good blend. And then not even to mention, like, he created, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, ad-lib of all time, which is Mama. Like,
yeah. Facts.
And that's another thing too, is like they really like took off with the whole ad-libs thing. Like people were doing ad-libs. They didn't invent ad-libs, but they made ad-libs fun. They made ad-libs like a necessity for a song. Like you listen to a trap song with no ad-libs before,
it's like listening to like a sitcom without laugh track.
Exactly.
Like it's insane.
Yeah. And so it's, I don't know, like it's a really difficult thing to think that like they're losing essentially their glue, and like
Truly.
They already had the rumors of them breaking up and whatnot, but like Offset was always like, we never broke up. He was like, we're just trying new things.
And I feel like, once, Offset got with Cardi, and then they started to be like further and further associated together. And then I believe it was last year when Quavo and Takeoff made their own album, joint album and stuff. And, it kind of felt like they were kind of like just not really split up, but just kind of doing their own thing. Because, they grew up together. They're family.
They're all related, like
exactly.
Offset's Quavo's cousin, and then Takeoff was Quavo's nephew.
I believe he was his uncle.
His uncle?
I believe it was his uncle, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I had it backwards then.
Yeah.
But still, like, they were all related. Like, they grew up together, and, it's the same thing I always talk about, like, why I love 2 Chainz so much. Like, 2 Chainz trapped and made money to get himself through college. Sure. And that's the same thing the Migos did, but with music. They made the money to get themselves chains. They made the money to promote themselves all through doing what they're doing. And like I remember when my cousin showed me Birds by them for the first time, he was like, listen to this. And like we were all in the car, and he was like, they're really doing it. He was like Gucci Mane and stuff, like he's done with that lifestyle, like whatever, sure. Blah, blah, blah. And then we get these guys, and they are just straight up unrelentlessly like admitting to everything they do. And so like they were bold, and bold, everything sure. like that. But no, they really like set the foundation for what trap music is nowadays, while always starting something new along the lines with it.
100%.
So,
and I really thought that like Takeoff was really the best rapper, honestly, if I'm gonna keep it a buck, like because like at least lyrically.
I still think so.
The way that he kind of delivered lines, he kind of had, verses where they would just hit you in the mouth. Like, Offset and Quavo would, have you on this like little trance almost in the beginning of the song with, the hook and everything. And then just the gritty, just kind of meaty nature of the way Takeoff, delivered lines.
Oh, yeah.
Would just, take you out of that trance and just kind of put you in that back in that party mood that kind of like, oh, I want to just ride and die right now. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely amazing what he did and the versatility that he added to this group. And, just the passion and then the initiative, the work ethic of these guys, going in and like once they got signed, I believe they like just straight up camped out in the studio. Like they just were sleeping on the reclining chair, just had boxes of takeout and stuff once he got signed with Gucci Mane and stuff. Like, the work ethic of these guys, just, just doing something that they love with his family and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I just couldn't imagine how much fun they had. Even if they weren't like as big before they were big, I'm sure they just had a blast just doing something that they love together.
I bet that was fun because like that's one of the ideal situations where like specifically for an artist, like you want to have fun with what you're doing, along with you want the people you're with to be with you and have fun with them. Like I can't see myself in a scenario like that without having like all my guys with me. And like being there to enjoy it with, and like they were all doing it together. They did everything together, and so like that's literally setting them up to be bonded for life. Given some families aren't that close, and in this case, they are just as close as needed. And that's one of the ideal things. Like you couldn't think of Migos without all three of them at once, and like I said, like they laid down this like huge foundation. And then once we hit high school, they changed it all again when they dropped Culture. And Culture was if not the first time, one of the biggest instances where trap music straight up just took off. And I'm talking like, yes, trap music was popular, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking radio stations across the country, all types of radio stations, all types of satellite radio people too. And that's because you had I have it here. You had T-Shirt, Bad and Bougie, Get Right With Ya, Slippery, Brown Paper Bag, Deads, All Ass, Kelly Price. All 8 of those songs were on the radio station at one point within the year of 2017.
That is so you don't see a whole lot of that. Like, okay, I feel like this. When you're building your music identity in high school, there's a couple of albums that just kind of take, your group, your circle, or the community that you associate with by storm.
Yeah.
For me, when Culture dropped, that was the first instance where like everybody I knew, anybody who was anybody in high school was bumping this tape. Like, it just from, you could hear it going into school at 6 a.m. in the morning to leaving, like, football practice, at 5, 6 in the afternoon. Like, it was absolutely insane. And then I would say it's up there with Astro World. Once Astro World dropped in high school at the time, it absolutely took over. But I would say those are honestly the top 2, if not the top 3, going into like high school and them actually dropping and just taking over. Everybody was listening to it, talking about it. And then don't even get me started when Culture 2 dropped as well.
Oh yeah. Whew. Now, I don't think Culture 2, in my opinion, like really set the same standard, but like
100%,
it still kept their popularity and shot it up more though. 100%. Because I mean, once again we got Narcos, BBO, Walk It Talk It, Stir Fry, Flooded, Beast, Open It Up, Motorsport, Work Hard, Notice Me, Two Playa, Top Down on the Nof, and the Culture National Anthem. I forgot that part existed. But like that, it was they were the group, and
for sure.
Granted, Culture 3 wasn't very popular per se, but
yeah, I definitely didn't listen to Culture 3, admittedly.
I did, and it wasn't terrible. It could have been better. Could have been a lot better. But it had its moments. I think Straightening is very good.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think I had, honestly, from like a music perspective, if I have to be hypercritical, I would say that Culture, the original Culture is the better of the 2 albums. But I'll be lying to you if like in the album that I just kind of bumped just in the car, just, straight up riding, I would definitely bump Culture 2 a little bit more just because it had just so many more just pop, influence on it. And
Oh, yeah.
that was the cool thing about Quavo is that he really, I think, is responsible for the popularity of Migos.
Oh yeah. He
you know-
single-handedly he was the marketability of him.
Oh, 100%. He
You
just
know.
bought that pop rap energy that
Yeah.
we have never seen before until him.
He said the goofy stuff. He said the quotable stuff. Whereas
Sure.
Takeoff had the bars and Offset had the flow.
Exactly.
Quavo had the quotes.
Sure.
he had people putting Major Bag Alert on all their Instagram captions for the longest time.
Forgot about that.
And I forgot about that too. Oh my. Bad and Bougie specifically, like that song before Culture even dropped. Quavo had the whole world in a chokehold.
In a chokehold, man.
Literally with just his just how smooth his verse was.
I forgot what Childish Gambino was accepting, but he was at some award show.
He was accepting a Oh man, what was it? He was accepting some type of not a Pulitzer, but something similar to that, like an award for something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then he goes on stage and it's just he just shouts out Bad and Bougie.
Yeah,
and
he was
the
just
Migos just cause he had nothing to do with
He
what
was
he was
just talking.
accepting.
He's just like, yeah, I want to thank my family, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I also want to thank the Migos for Bad and Bougie because it's the best song ever.
Ever, oh my goodness, man. I still just that little Uzi verse really brought it together. Of course, there was controversy around Takeoff, not really being featured in that track and stuff.
I don't even think there was controversy there, dude.
It was a non-story. It was really
hard.
a non-story.
It's hard. Okay, if you're in a trio and you want to have a big feature on your song, it is so hard to make a 3.5-minute song that has all 4 people on it.
I believe just straight up with Takeoff not really even having a verse on it, it was already long already.
I bet he had a verse.
It was there probably is a version of it on some hard drive down in Atlanta. It's a 5 minutes and 43 second song. Just without
that would have put it at least 6 minutes.
At least, So I think that was a non-story and stuff. I love that clip with him and DJ Academics going back and forth. I would left off Bad Bougie.
Huh? Let off Bad Bougie.
What?
What'd you say?
Huh? It was amazing.
I let off Bad Bougie. So would you say that Culture 2 is your favorite Migos project?
Honestly, my heart want to say Culture, but Culture 2, I just have to because it's definitely played way more than Culture.
Yeah.
But again, Culture, just straight up was just such a good track in general.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, dude.
Yeah, just personally.
Yeah, straight up, I completely understand because for the longest time, I probably have put more hours into Culture 2, given just because some of the songs are just bangers.
Just absolutely.
And so the reason I say Culture 1 is better is just because I can listen to Culture 1 top to bottom. I know it. And I remember when Culture 2 came out, I couldn't.
It was
long. It's a long album.
Yeah.
Even Culture 3 Deluxe wasn't that long. Culture 2, its normal album, which never got a deluxe, is 25 songs.
Yeah,
give or take.
I don't even think today I might have listened. I think I listened to it once, but ever since then, it was just always I want to say 8 to 9 tracks that I actually really re-listened to and enjoyed and played.
That's the hardest part about long albums too.
For sure, I can't. It's hard to take me 2 hours just straight Migos. That's just hard to do with any artist, honestly. But yeah, it was just amazing. I really love Culture 2. Just what the Migos did for me and my friends, just playing basketball, bumping on the speakers, just so many good memories.
We used to go play at a friend's house because his family had a court or a half court, and I remember every time it'd be Gavin, connect to the speaker, and it would be Birds in the Trap by Travis Scott, Culture 2, Astro World, Drake's albums. It was just a bunch of that just on shuffle because that's what we listened to while we hooped. That's what we listened to while we played backyard football. That's what we listened to when we were just hanging out.
Exactly.
But yeah, man, the impact is absolutely just insane. And it's really sad, where we're at now with it, given we unfortunately lost Takeoff. But at the end of the day, I'm glad they have the impact they have because,
sure.
It's sad no matter what, but at least now he'll be remembered no matter what. He will still have Culture. We'll still have we'll still have Gucci Mane talking about them because Takeoff was always Gucci Mane's favorite, you know.
Understandable.
And it was talked about. It was always argued about, whatever. And like, he literally was the most quiet out of the three too. Like you never really heard anything about Takeoff.
Facts. Because it was always like already Offset, you know, was associated with Cardi B. So obviously there's gonna be like noise around Offset, no matter if you liked it or not. And then Quavo, he was, you know, the pop. He was his job to really like make sure that Migos stayed in the spotlight, including himself for his own you know interests. So it just felt like, you know, Takeoff wanted to have his, you know, own voice, you know, through his music. He just wanted to really focus on the music and not really a bunch on his image and stuff. He didn't like flex on Instagram a lot. He didn't have all these controversies. He was just, I just want to make really good music with my family and stuff, which I appreciate. And we haven't talked about, you know, what is it called? The Last Rocket.
Oh yeah, like his solo project. That's what I plan on getting into next. Actually, was his solo project, which was The Last Rocket, and I honestly really enjoyed the project.
For sure.
I had minor things with it, but like at the same time, that was the first time anyone got any of the Migos on their own, and so like it's really weird. I gotta pull up the track list now because I don't remember all of them, but I remember specific moments.
I would still say, like, you know, Martian, the intro, it was nice. Oh, yeah. I really like the intro. I don't know why. There was just something about it, just having that kind of like, it had like what was it, like the Martian, like space landing or like the moon landing or something in the background and stuff. And it just had this like nice kind of just steady pace, like instrumental in the background. And then just all of a sudden it's just like, boom, Takeoff. Like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like reminiscent of like who he is as a person. Just kind of like, you know, he flows along with Quavo and Offset and everything. And then just all of a sudden, bang, just, you know, that heat comes through.
Yeah.
And that was just like a fantastic intro. Just one of my favorites. Just random intros that I really like.
Yeah. I remember when he put out Last Memory, like the first single, and I was like, Takeoff. What's he doing?
What you doing now?
I was like, what is he doing?
Just Takeoff.
I was like, is there another Migos album that's getting I was like, is there a Migos album where he's gonna have his own single on it, or what's going on here? Yeah, and I listened to it and I was just like, wow. I was like, what? It was nice. And then the album came out and I was like, oh my. And like you're talking about Martian, like that's a great intro for specifically like a Takeoff album. And like, you know, all the way through it, like Vacation, Last Memory, Lead the Wave, Casper, Insomnia, Casper. Infatuation, even the outro, Bruce Wayne, like he knew what he was doing, and he did a great job with it too.
For sure. And I could just tell, like, you know, straight up, this isn't an album that I'm going to like is going to be like one of my classic all time, you know, rap. It's not going to be that, but it's always going to be an album where I just appreciate the love and care that's took place inside of this. You know, it just sounds like, based on like what he, you know, from the instrumentals to the way he flows to, you know, the topics at hand in each and every you know song, it just, you could tell the person who made this really loved and put some like passion behind this.
And he finally got the chance to sit down and like actually put some thought into a project where like, and that's no offense to the Migos either, they made phenomenal trap music, you know, like, you know, most of the songs may have been similar topics, but each song was its own thing, and like they did a wonderful job at that. But like Takeoff is a rapper's rapper, you know, like he had the flow, he had the bars, and so he actually finally got a chance to sit down and like talk about himself for a minute in the between this post culture thing, and I'm glad he got to do it because like it was a good project. And I'm glad all three of them got to do their own solo projects, for sure, because it really gave, like, it opened a door for each person. 100%. Like Father of Four, the Offset album, it wasn't my favorite. You know, I think it was. I honestly thought it was the most lackluster of the three solo projects, but it still opened up a chapter of Offset. You know, just as this one did for Takeoff, and I can't be opposed to it. Like I'm thoroughly like was impressed with all of it.
Yeah, and it's like it was never like just this ugly breakup where they were forced to do their individual thing.
Oh no, they just did it
They
because they
just did
could.
it because they wanted to, make sure that they set themselves apart because they had just their own thing going on at the time, and then they just wanted to make sure that they put out like the music that they loved and got to sat down and just have their own identity when it comes to like streams, when it comes to who they are as an artist. And again, I feel like out of all three of those, it's just Last Rocket just felt like it was really like a passion, like this was just brewing under, inside Offset.
Yeah.
I mean, Takeoff for forever, and then he just like let it out and stuff. And then Quavo's never been really like my favorite, just because I've never been super heavy into pop, hip hop, and just general. It's just not something that I listen to a whole lot. And so like this was just perfect when it comes to my ears. And then again, but the Quavo track album, that's something that I could tell that took some time and care into. And then Father for
It had its moments, but at the end of the day, it wasn't anything crazy. And no, and like I'm glad they got to do stuff like that.
For sure.
And that leads me into asking like, what's your favorite like? Give me your top 5 Migos songs, and that can include like individual stuff too.
Okay.
But I also want to know, like, what's your favorite Takeoff verse? Or, like, your top 3 Takeoff verses?
I can say my favorite Takeoff verse just off rip is probably off of Fight Night, because it was just, like, immediate. Like, it wasn't like, like he normally does, like, lead up, where there's a hook first, and then or some type of instrumental or some type of skit. It was just Takeoff, and he just took off that track. You know what I mean? And I just like, it really gets me going. Like, again, I have like a whole I have a whole mix with just like a bunch of songs that just really get me going. And Fight Night's like the third or fourth.
Hit it with a left,
hit it with a right. And I just ooh in the jam ball. Oh my god, I hit a max. I hit a max to that song. No cap, I'm hit a max to that song. It was really fun.
Fight Night was always in my warm up playlist for like wrestling and stuff, and like it gets you hype.
Something about it, man.
That's actually a really good answer for favorite Takeoff verse.
Yeah,
I really like him in Handsome and Wealthy.
Handsome Wealthy.
I really like his verse in that.
Very fair.
For strictly like how funny it was to me, I liked his verse in Versace just because he was the one that just did like the and then just started rapping. I was like, oh, okay, Takeoff's here.
Thank you, Takeoff. Thank you for your.
But like, actually, I think his first verse in Last Memory might be like my favorite verse ever he's done. Because like Last Memory is like.
Remind me, what was that like?
Now I gotta pull it up because I listened to it earlier and it was in my head.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I remember like listening to Last Memory and stuff, but I bumped Casper so much that it just kind of just drowns out the rest of the album for me.
She Wanna Feel She's Special. The Coco Make Her Feel Special. I Kinda Hunted Her Better.
Oh,
Back in 200 or Better. I might go put all my chains on. I might just change up the weather. I can't say that next line.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say it's coming up. Yeah.
I met that girl at Coachella. Is she Nutella? She'd probably do better.
Oh man.
But can I get E for effort? Like he's just.
That was just a vibe. Like Last Memory was
that whole verse. It's literally the song is literally just hook, verse, giant verse, hook, and I love that.
Facts. I love it. I absolutely love that track. And then like I don't know, Migos. Obviously, Bad and Bougie has to be up there. Yeah, has to be.
It has to. It's according to Donald Glover, the best song ever made.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if his opinions changed since then.
Probably, but I'm not gonna lie. When I listened to Bad and Bougie the first time, I was just like, "Geez."
I want to talk to him about this. I want to ask him, be like, "Yo, Donald, Mr. Glover, do you still think this is the greatest song ever made? Because I got some arguments here."
Yeah, exactly. Facts. But yeah, like okay, I would go with Bad and Bougie.
And is this in order?
This is not. I can't put it in order right now. I can't.
Okay,
I don't,
that's why I asked because mine's in no particular order.
Yeah, if I said it, then I'm gonna just look back and just be like, "Is it though?" Walking Like I Talk It. I don't like that I have it up here, but it's just such a vibe that I just.
Oh yeah, and like having Drake on any song is a cheat code anyway. So like that's completely understandable.
T-shirt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Versace.
No. Specifically, the OG or
I'm gonna say the OG. Even though the Drake one was good, not gonna lie. But I can't have two Drake features in my top 5. I can't do it.
That's wild.
And then I'm gonna say, hey, listen, back in the day, Joe. Oh man, again, I didn't care about
Back in the day, Joe.
Man, just straight bops. And then I'll have to go T-shirt.
I feel like me and Back in the Day Joe would have gotten along very well.
Fair, very fair.
Wait. So you had Bad and Bougie.
I had Bad and Bougie. I had Walk It Like I Talk It. I had T-shirt. Did I say Narcos?
No.
I didn't say Narcos. I had then I had Versace, and then what was the other one I had?
I think you said T-shirt again.
I might have said T-shirt again. Okay, if I did say T-shirt again, I'm gonna go with Narcos.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. That's a good 5.
Mhm.
That's a good 5.
Yeah, I love that song.
So you can tell I got into them a little bit earlier.
Okay, gotcha.
Because my top 5 includes the Versace remix,
Okay.
Handsome and Wealthy,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wishy Washy.
Okay. I don't think I've listened to that. That's crazy.
Bad and Bougie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a tough one. Okay. Okay.
It's
so-
hard. It is hard.
Okay, so it's down to like 2
Mm.
options, and that is it's either Hannah Montana or Bars off YRN 2.
Okay.
And it's only because that song is so funny to me. It is literally like it comes in, and Zaytoven's beat for that song is awesome, and you just hear bars, ting ting bars, and in the background you just hear ting ting, ting ting.
Oh my goodness. Some of Migos intros in general are just amazing.
So good.
Like, what was it off of? Dead's?
Yeah,
Or,
Dead's with 2 Chainz.
Like, oh, y'all in trouble. Like, that is so funny. Oh, it's so funny.
Y'all in trouble. Fresh out the bed.
Oh, it's so amazing. They just having fun, man. They just having fun in the
That's
studio,
all
and
it is.
I love that.
That's
I
the best
love
part.
that.
That's why we love them.
Oh, man.
No, man.
Good times.
This is
man.
a good episode.
For sure. Throwback episode for Joe, at least.
So happy to have you here for
so,
this.
So happy that you had me, sir.
But I had such a good time talking about this. Once again, condolences out to Takeoff's family, to Offset, Quavo. You know, we really lost one of trap music's greatest, let alone music in general. You know, it's sad. Keep in mind stuff like that. Not to preach or anything, but you know, be careful with what you do, and you know, hopefully some people take this as a lesson to not feel the need to pull out weaponry just because you get in an argument with someone. But overall, you know, we lost a great, and hearts out there for all those also dealing with it. More so, or you know, obviously his family and stuff, but also his fans. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people really reeling with it. I know I was when, you know, XXX passed. So, like, I know it's like losing your favorite artist. But, you know, our hearts go out to them. You know, we love them. You know, all that jazz.
Yeah, for sure. The world just needs a little bit more compassion. Tell somebody you love them today.
Exactly. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Joe, for being on with me.
Thank you.
But this has been Past the Aux. I've been Gavin the Chef Cook.
Joseph DeLon Moore.
And we will see you